What's up, guys? It's Eric from Rare Candy, and today we're back with another deck profile. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, we did post actually a match between this deck versus Mega Alakazam, so I'll be sure to put a link somewhere for you guys to check that out as well. But anyways, so we're taking a look at a new deck that Fates Collide is going to give us. Kind of a card a lot of people haven't been hyping up, but as soon as I saw the scans for this, I knew this was a deck that I wanted us to test out. And I think it's a pretty decent archetype, to be honest. It has a lot of good matchups. But anyway, so it's Serperior from Fates Collide, and we're basically just trying to do cheap, easy damage with this deck, and I'll show you basically exactly how we're going to do that. So since it is a Serperior deck, we do play 4 Snivy. I don't believe there is another Snivy available in Standard currently, so I think this is the only one we can use. So 60 hit points, attack does 10 damage, and heals 10. Really kind of irrelevant. We're just kind of using it just to get into Serperior, and also the Stage 1. So the Stage 1 is honestly, I think, kind of what makes this deck competitive otherwise. The Stage 2 is good, but I think the Stage 1, like I said, is really what seals the deal for it. So Servine here, I know these are Japanese, forgive me. I don't have a full set of the new cards yet, but it has this ability, whenever you evolve into Servine, you flip a coin. If heads, your opponent's Pokemon is now paralyzed. And paralyzation is a really good status condition to inflict because they can't retreat out of it. So they have to evolve or play some sort of switching card. So it's really good. It'll buy you a turn, especially with these Stage 2 decks. Sometimes you're a little slower than some of these big basic EX decks, or even the all basic decks like Night March that are super fast. Playing this card can give you, just an extra turn that you need. Or even if you're going against something like, let's say, Seismitoad EX or Giratina EX, which disrupt you a lot from their attacks, this might buy you actually a turn to break the lock that they have on you. So a lot of really good uses for this card. So that's why we're opting to play 4 of these over something like Rare Candy, for example. And also, since this is grass, we can abuse Forest of Giant Plants, which we'll get to in a bit as well. So next up, we have Serperior, main attacker of the deck. Playing 4 of them, obviously. 140 hit points, pretty solid for a Stage 2. 2 retreat isn't the best, but the attacks are worth it, I think. So the first attack, Coil, does 40 damage for just a colorless, and during your next turn, its attacks do 60 more damage to your opponent's Pokemon. So swing for 41 turn, and the next turn with Coil, you can also do 60. Or if you want to do more of like a finishing attack to clean up a knockout, you can do Slashing Strike for just a grass, and it does 80. Only downside is you can't use Slashing Strike on the next turn, but you still can use Coil. So what you can do a lot of times, you can Coil for 40, that boosts your attacks by 60. Then on the following turn, you can attack with Slashing Strike for 140. So the math works out really well for all the EXs in format. So that's kind of what makes it a really efficient attacker, and it's just 1 energy, so it's really easy to get in play. In our testing, we even had a game that we recorded actually where even going second, you can easily get out of Serperior and just start attacking right on the first turn of the game. So next up, this is all of our attackers. Next up, we just have some support Pokemon. So we have a 2/2 Ariados line. So we're already doing, status conditions like paralyzation. And also Ariados is good just because he's another damage modifier for you. So with Poisonous Nest, you can poison both active Pokemon. And it's kind of helpful. It helps you hit good numbers in certain matchups. And for example, against Shaymin, you can Lysandre a Shaymin, attach a Muscle Band to Serperior, and poison the Shaymin with Ariados to swing for exactly 110. So it helps you kill Shaymins. I think that's probably what it's best for. But it also does help out with the math against certain things. Like there's certain Pokemon format like Bronzong or Raichu that have 90 hit points. With Ariados, you can just poison them and take a knockout. So he's cool. I also saw another YouTuber played Fortress. I think that's an option as well. But currently, I like Ariados right now. I think more so just because the damage is residual and it keeps happening every turn if they don't retreat. So then next up, to close out the Pokemon line, we just have 2 Shaymin, kind of standard just to help get you set up. Okay, so next up is our supporter cards for Sycamore. Obvious reasons, best draw supporter in the game. It is a little contested now that we have a reprint of another old card, but as of right now, Sycamore is still probably the best. So discard your hand, draw 7. It can really help you get out the Serperior on turn 1. And it's just pretty self-explanatory. You draw lots of cards. Drawing cards is good in Pokemon. Okay, so next up, like I said, we have N back in the format. Card I think a lot of players have been missing since we haven't had any, honestly, very solid draw power in the past couple sets. We've been having to resort to things like Shauna and Professor Birch because there's nothing else really. So it's awesome to have N back in the format, especially since Serperior is also, it is kind of a fast attacker, but it doesn't really take one-hit knockouts on a lot of things. You're usually two-shotting stuff, and you have all these low HP attackers, or low HP basics. So a couple of things might get knocked out before you even get set up in a couple games. So N's good. Makes your opponent, and actually each player, shuffle their hand to their deck and draw equal to the number of prizes they have left. So really good card. Very happy to finally have this back in the format. So we play 1 Lysandre just to bring up one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. I would like to actually increase this to 2, but it's a stage 2. There's a lot of stuff you have to fit in here. I had to cut this down to 1, but if you can find room for a second one, by all means, go ahead. So we have 1 AZ. Really good. Put one of your Pokemon back in your hand, discard any other cards attached to it, like energies and tools, etc. So this is really good because it lets us reuse our Servine's ability. Not to mention we can reuse Shaymin, we can heal off our Serperior since a lot of Pokemon do have to two-shot it. But mainly, I think it's most important because we can AZ up our Serperior line, and with Forest of Giant Plants, we can immediately just play the entire line back down again. So a lot of synergy in this deck. I like this a lot. So we have 1 Teammates. If you notice, everything in this deck is a non-EX other than Shaymin. So most of the time, your opponent is only taking single prizes off of your board. So Teammates is really good in decks like this because you can use it 5 or 6 times in a game and just, it's basically computer search for 2 cards if your opponent knocks out one of your Pokemon. So I like this card in almost all non-EX decks. It seems to fit really well in here too. And finally, just closing out the supporters and stuff, we have 4 versus Sekker, just to reuse all of our supporters. You could debatably cut a 4th versus Sekker for a Lysandre, just because me personally, I get really annoyed playing 4 versus Sekker in decks that don't play Battle Compressor, just because a lot of times you'll open with it and it doesn't really do you much good. So if you really, really wanted to, you could drop this, but I opted just to max it out. And that's pretty much it for our draw and like supporter related cards. So on to the rest of the trainer cards. We have 4 Ultra Ball and 2 Level Ball. So we're opting for a split here. Ultra Ball is just generally the best because you can search out anything, but we do play a lot of Pokemon under 90 hit points, so Level Ball is definitely worth playing in this list. Yeah, I really like this so far in our testing. It seems to work out really well. And kind of the card that also helps make this whole deck work is 4 Super Scoop Up. So like we said with AZ, there's a lot of benefits to being able to reuse these Servine abilities over and over and over. But you obviously don't want to use your supporter to do that every turn. So we play 4 Super Scoop Up to pick up our Serperiors, our Shaymins, so we can reuse these abilities on these Pokemon and also potentially heal as well. So really good card. It's kind of what makes the deck tick. Definitely opt over the Evolution Spray. Some people might consider that, but I like this because it lets you pick up the entire Evolution line and also works for Shaymins. So we also have 3 Trainer's Mail. So again, this is another one of those cards I would love to have played 4 of, but just due to space issues, since this is a stage 2 deck, there's a lot we do have to fit in here. I did only play 3, but it's, 3 is still a good count. Like I said, the same thing goes for the Lysandre. If you can find a way to cram a 4th one in here, I'm not opposed to that. And it's just a good consistency booster, lets you hit your super scoop ups, ultra balls, etc. So we play 2 Muscle Band. And this is actually a really, really important card, because if there's any deck that this struggles against, it's definitely going to be Vespiquen variants, because Ariados only poisons non-grass types. So you can't poison Vespiquen to do 90 damage, basically. So Muscle Band is really good in these instances because it lets you hit for 100, which does knock out a Vespiquen. And also, I mean, there's just other instances just when you rather have that 20 extra damage. We were talking about with Serperior, if you coil 1 turn and then slashing strike the next, you're doing 180. Well, with a Muscle Band, that's adding up to 200, and with Ariados, that's 210. So that knocks out some of the Mega Pokemon in the format as well. So like I said, it's just another card to help hit your numbers, and you need this to knock out Shaymins as well. So definitely, I like at least 2 of these in here. And just rounding out our item cards, we play 1 Super Rod. Just in case we have to Sycamore away some resources early on in the game, we have a way to get them back. Or, Serperiors are eventually going to get knocked out. We do want to shuffle them back in at some point. Okay, so that is it for our item cards. And then, oops, I think that was my phone. Ignore that. But anyways, so if our stadiums, we're playing Forest of Giant Plants, maxing it out at 4. That way it just gives us the optimal, odds of drawing into all of our Serperiors and Ariados and evolving immediately right into them. So, seems really good. I probably wouldn't go lower than this. As far as I can tell, at least. I don't think there's a reason to. But anyways, yeah, that's it for the trainer cards. Then for energy, we're only playing 9 grass. So if you see all of our attackers just take 1 energy, you might have to attach a second one to Serperior to retreat at some point if you absolutely have to. But generally speaking, you don't really need much energy in this deck. And actually, I'm considering taking out an energy as well, just because we've had a couple games where I've had a couple energy clogging my hand when you really don't need that many in this deck. So yeah, probably wouldn't play more than 9. You could go maybe even as low as 7, but 8 seems like a good number just from what I can tell. But yeah, guys, so that's the deck. It's pretty straightforward, especially if you're a newer player getting into the game or someone who's trying to get into the game. I think this is actually a really good deck to help teach people with, because it has a very straightforward strategy. It's fun to play, and it's actually pretty competitive. I mean, I feel like you kind of beat Greninja pretty easily. I think that's an obvious one. Seismitoad EX, I feel like you beat that. If there is a deck that just completely beats this 100%, from what I can tell, I feel like Vespiquen Vileplume would be a very hard matchup for this, because they are one-shotting all of your Serperiors. You have to 2-shot them because you can't play Muscle Band down since you will be item locked. But you never know, there might be situations where you can beat that deck since they play Forest of Giant Plants down for you. But overall, I think that's a pretty bad matchup. Trevenant Break might also be a little difficult, but I feel like against EX decks, this deck will do solid, especially against like Giratina. Serperior doesn't really get affected by that other than Muscle Band and Forest, but you might not even need this to beat it. But anyway, so yeah, I think this deck has decent matchups, and it's pretty fun to play too. So give it a shot for sure. If you guys are testing it and you see anything in this list that you don't like, or something that you wish that you saw in this list, just let us know in the comments. Let us know what you're thinking. And yeah, guys, so that's about it for Serperior. feel free to like and subscribe, and we will see you guys for the next one, okay?